We all want to raise kids who grow up to be confident, calm, and emotionally healthy. But the truth is, the way most of us were raised and the way many kids are still being raised today doesn't set them up for that. Instead, it wires them for anxiety, it wires them to believe that in order to be loved, they must suppress their emotions. It wires them to think that in order to be accepted, they must control everything outside of themselves so they don't have to feel what's happening inside. Most people don't consciously think of themselves as obsessed with controlling emotions. They don't wake up in the morning saying, I don't want to feel. But they do spend their days trying to control everything else so they won't have to. They obsess over money, over whether their body looks a certain way, over what people think of them, over whether their homes look perfect, over their social media presence. Deep down, what they are really doing is trying to protect themselves from feelings. If I look good, I won't feel shame. If people like me, I won't feel rejection. If I have the perfect relationship, I won't feel heartbreak. But here's the truth. None of those things are guaranteed. None of those things can shield us from life because life includes pain. And when we raise kids to fear that pain, to avoid it at all costs, they grow into adults who are terrified of their own feelings. Adults who try to control every outcome and in the process lose their ability to live fully. This begins in childhood. Think about it. Kids don't naturally know how to regulate emotions. They don't come into the world knowing how to calm themselves down or how to put anger into words or how to process disappointment. They have to be taught. Just like we teach them to tie their shoes, to say please and thank you, to brush their teeth, we also have to teach them what to do with big feelings. But often that doesn't happen. Instead, when kids cry, they are told, oh, stop crying, you are fine. Or when kids get angry, they are punished instead of guided. When they are scared, they are dismissed. They quickly learn, if I want to be loved, I have to shut this part of me down. I can only show the emotions that are acceptable, and so the suppression begins. The child learns, my parents love me more when I am good, but good doesn't mean authentic. Good doesn't mean whole. Good means quiet, controlled, convenient, and so the child suppresses. But here's the catch, those feelings don't go away. They get stored, they get buried, and then one day that child becomes an adult who feels panic, anxiety, judgment, constant fear, but doesn't even understand where it comes from. So they try to control their adult lives in the same way. Like, if I don't trigger a bad feeling, I won't have to deal with it. And the cycle repeats. So how do we break it? How do we raise a generation of kids who don't grow up to be anxious, fragmented adults? We start by being the kind of adults they can model. Kids don't do what we tell them, they do what we do. If they see us running from our own emotions, if they see us numbing, controlling, denying, then that's what they will learn. If they see us accept our feelings, talk about them, process them, they will learn to do the same. When a child is angry, they don't need to be punished. They need to be guided. Like, I see that you are angry, it's okay to feel angry. Let's find a way to express it that doesn't hurt anyone. When a child is sad, they don't need to be told, oh, stop crying. They need to be told, it's okay to be sad. Like, I'm here with you. Let's sit with this feeling until it passes. When they are scared, they don't need to be shamed. They need to be reassured. The voices they hear from us, especially in those most vulnerable moments, will become the voices they hear in their own heads for the rest of their lives. If the voice they hear is judgmental, they will grow into adults with a judgmental inner critic. If the voice they hear is loving and kind, they will grow into adults with a loving, kind inner guide. And this is where the real opportunity lies. We are in a unique moment in time. Like, many of us grew up without this kind of guidance. Many of us were raised to suppress, to avoid, to deny. But now as adults, we can choose differently. We can learn the emotional intelligence we weren't given. We can unlearn suppression and begin practicing acceptance. And when we do, we don't just change ourselves, we change the generations after us. The way we raise adults who don't struggle with anxiety is by being adults who accept anxiety, by being adults who show kids that emotions are not the enemy, that feeling doesn't make you weak, that vulnerability doesn't make you unlovable, that emotions are not to be feared but understood. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't to raise kids who never feel bad. That's impossible. The goal is to raise kids who aren't afraid of their feelings, kids who can sit with the discomfort, process it, and move through it. Kids who don't need to control every external detail of their lives to feel safe. Kids who know that no matter what they feel, they are still loved. That's how we break the cycle. That's how we raise a generation of kids who don't grow up with a constant gnawing fear inside them. That's how we create a future filled with emotionally strong, grounded, resilient adults. And it starts with us, with the work we do today, with the way we learn to cope with our own feelings, so we can model it for the children watching us. Because the truth is, they are always watching, and someday our voices will become their voices. Let's make sure they are voices of love, compassion, and acceptance. And this was the message of today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. And that's it. I see you in the next video. Bye!